Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, March 17th, and I am not wearing green. That's right, but you can't pinch me because there is a computer screen between you and me right now. Anyway, it is the 17th of 2023, and this is episode 714 of Living Free in Tennessee. And today's a Friday, so it's a Homestead Happenings Day. Now, we had daylight savings time happen. So I had originally planned to broadcast at 10:30 instead of 9:30 because we do all the animals and then we do the broadcast. So we've seen all the things. And so what that means for daylight savings time is I don't actually change my time of the show, but then stuff happens. So the cool thing about being a podcaster is that I can adjust my schedule some when things come up. I got a note yesterday from a friend of mine, Michael, who I had offered my pair of breeding pigs to. So I have Lady Pig and LB, and I've been looking for a new place for them. I was willing to process them if I needed to, but she's such a good mom and she's got really good genetics, and so does he. And so I was hoping to find somebody who wanted to raise pigs, and he did. He's adding pigs back to his homestead. And his homestead is set up for pigs to rotate them through the woods the way they should be, which is pretty cool. And he said, hey, I can pick him up tomorrow morning, like right in the middle of your podcast, if you want. He didn't know that was in the middle of my podcast. And I said, okay. I said, I might not see you because I might be recording. And then I thought, well, why don't I just shift the podcast earlier? And then I can tell everybody about that transition on the homestead, among other things, and sort of be around to help when it's time to entice the piggies up on the trailer, which is always kind of a tricky thing. Although apples are her kryptonite, or not kryptonite, but her crack. Kryptonite makes you weak. Crack makes you interested in trying it, except for I've never done crack, nor have I been interested in trying it. So I don't know the best metaphor, guys. Anyway, today's a Homestead Happenings update, and we will be coming to you from the Holler Homestead. We're going to talk about friends leaving the farm, because when you raise animals, you do become friends with them. New arrivals on the farm, and Winter Returns 1.0 is here. We get Winter Returns a couple times every spring. Hello, Bobby and Letty. Thank you for joining the live stream. Guys, if you want to get a question in on this show, put it in all caps. Otherwise, I might not see it because these eyes aren't as good as they used to be. Before we jump into the Homestead Happening stuff, though, I wanted to talk to you about the featured event. And I came across this one. I knew it was happening in theory, and I hadn't fully internalized when the dates were. But my friend over at Food Forest Farms, plural, foodforestfarms.com, Brian Norton, who's also a coffee roaster, he does a festival that's kind of big, like the Self-Reliance Festival is kind of big. It's called Squatch Fest. It's in Washington State on his property that he bought out there. And he just, in 2020, is like, screw it. Screw all the shutdowns. We're doing a festival. We'll camp. We'll have music. We'll have fun. We'll have people talk about whatever they want to talk about. And they do a solstice celebration, June 21 through 25. Tickets are on a discounted price right now, $100 for all of those days, or you can get day passes for different things for $50. I have put a link in the show notes. If you're listening to the audio podcast and just want to grab your ticket, foodforestfarms.com. And if you scroll down his homepage, you will find it. And it's Squatch Fest. I might actually get out to that. We'll see if I can get to Washington and back efficiently for that thing. And I just don't know. I want to come. If I don't come to this one, I'm going to try to come to the fall one if they do a fall one. Martinson family, welcome to the live stream. Also wanted to thank today's show sponsor. Very fitting for today's show. It's the Homestead Consultant. Ryan Steva has been a home inspector for a long time, and he's always helped us with crazy, weird carpentry things that happen at the Holler Homestead. And crazy carpentry things happen at the Holler Homestead, like all the time, because the house was built by hand by somebody who did what he did. Let's put it that way. And some of it was just outdated building practices, and some of it is he had what he had and he made it work. And so often when we get into a project here, we're like, oh no, what do we do? Skeins girl, welcome to the live stream. He has been instrumental in helping us prevent water problems in the future and all sorts of different stuff with his home inspector hat. Well, he's also a homesteader and a permaculturist. And he realized that a lot of people are moving into Tennessee and starting homesteads, and they're not quite sure where to start. Like they've had maybe some chickens and a garden at home, but they haven't assessed the land from the top down, set their personal goals, figured out what they want to do on the property from a permaculture perspective, and then figured out a stepwise plan to get that done one thing at a time. And as you guys know, I'm a big proponent of do things one thing at a time, even though I don't always do things one thing at a time. None of us necessarily stick to that all the time, but I'm a big proponent of it because when you make incremental steps forward, you end up successful. If you look at the thumbnails for March for this show, you'll see a picture of my kitchen every week. My kitchen, which has had to be completely gutted to nothing. And today's picture, you will see drywall with drywall mud and drywall tape on it. That's a really good example of stepwise progress. A little bit all the time. I have felt overwhelmed the whole time. And actually, he has helped on the project. He helped hang the drywall with us the other day. So that's an example of stepwise change. Well, he works with homesteaders to set that up. He talks to you, helps you establish your goals, helps you connect your goals with your land, with food, so your food can be generated from the land, and connects you with resources and people in the area that can help you get things done. It's a really cool service. It's thehomesteadconsultant.com, or email him at thehomesteadconsultant@gmail.com. If you want to have a free 20-minute phone conversation, just say at LFTN consult. You're requesting a Living Free in Tennessee consult. If you tell him you heard it about it on the show, then he knows that his sponsorship has been helpful. So that does not hurt me. With that, it is time to go into our first segment of today's show, and that is Featured Forage. It's Tennessee in the spring. I guess it's not technically spring yet for another few days, but it's been spring here. You know, when the land tells you it's spring, in my opinion. And if I just saw a comment, it said, I'm one of those myself. He might pass out if he had access to the house. No, he's actually really good at seeing the chaos and saying, start here. That's why we love Ryan, right? Anyway, Featured Forage. So spring has come, and now we're into first winter. So, well, I guess second winter is what some people call it, but it's like the winter returns, I call it. Winter returns. So we always get the spring thing, and then we get these series of frosts that tend to kill my rosemary plants everywhere. As a result of that, some stuff has slowed down. Like it was popping last week, you know, like flowers were coming out, trees were blooming, stuff was germinating. It was awesome. And then winter returns happened, and it got down to 24 degrees, and I froze my water pipes. And here's what's still up. Dead nettle's happy as could be. Watercress is happy as could be. Stinging nettle is happy as could be. And the chickweed's fine. Morels are coming out, and other mushrooms. Other mushrooms have been coming out all weekend long. I mean, not all weekend long, all winter long. And we also have pea shoots up in the garden. They're about 3 to 4 inches tall. They're just reaching towards the rack of, you know, their trellis that they'll climb. And other early spring greens are up. So we have lettuce, we have other spring greens. The frost that came through burned back the flowers on the trees, but the leaves look fine. And it's a thing that happens every year. And this year, like usually I kind of cover my crops, and I intended to this year, and I just didn't because I was more focused on the kitchen. And I thought, you know, I get 3 or 4 handfuls of peas off these peas plants every year, and then it gets super hot in Tennessee. And then they say, screw you, lady, and they go away. And then I plant beans in that row or something else. And so I thought, you know, I'm weighing progress on my kitchen to a couple handfuls of peas that might get axed, and I can always put more seeds in. So I didn't cover them. They did fine. It's kind of funny that, I don't know. So covering does help. And if you are in Tennessee growing and you want to keep your plants going, being able to put row cover on and off at this time of year, if you have things out there, is really awesome. And if you want to have peas, you have to have them out there now. So you got to kind of do that to keep it going. But I am thankful my potatoes are not up out of the ground yet. So anyway, that's what's coming off the land. Next section is livestock. This is where we talk about the animals that we have. And the animals are our friends. And one of my good friends is Lady Pig. She loves having her back scratched. In fact, I put a video out on YouTube this morning. We went over to say goodbye to her yesterday. I will see her one more time. It might be a stressful day for Lady Pig today. But she's leaving the farm and LB is leaving with her. And hopefully she will do for Michael what she has done for us in the reproduction and care aspect of raising her little piglets. And if she doesn't, he will make the prudent decision, which I understand. But they're leaving, and it's always funny because she's been here since 2020. So we've had this pig for almost, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, so almost 3 years. And I've had a hard time letting her go a little bit because Mark Alexander, a friend of mine, was the one who was in 2020. He became really alarmed about the state of the world and the ability to feed ourselves and all of that. And he was really insistent that I buy a pig. And he helped me find Lady Pig, and I bought Lady Pig. And I think it was one of his pigs, actually, because he wanted to make sure that the holler neighbors had enough food. And that's the kind of guy that Mark was. He also died of cancer, not like later that same year. I think it was 2020. It might have been 2021. It was probably 2021 it was 2021 when he had cancer and passed away. No, it was 2020. I think it was fall that year. Anyway, I don't know. It was shortly after that it happened, though. And so I've always kind of associated the pigs that I have with like fond feelings of Mark Alexander because he came into our lives here at the Holler Homestead as so excited about what we were doing, so excited about the podcast, always supportive of the podcast, supportive of my coffee business, even though he and his wife do not drink coffee. And it was just always giving me good ideas and advice. And so like saying goodbye to the pigs today is not just saying goodbye to the pigs. It's like sort of a relic of Mark that was in our lives. And there are lots of other relics around. So it's not like that it's, there's no other memory of him around here. But it's going to be a strange little departure. And, sometimes on the homestead, you feel sad about things that people are like, why do you feel sad about that? It's just a pig. Well, you just do. We develop these emotional attachments. It's always funny. The ones that are the animals that need the most care are the ones that are the hardest to let go sometimes, like if they get hurt or whatever. And like with our sheep, it's the same way, right? I've had to help sheep medically to keep them alive, and those are the ones we processed because we don't want them passing their genetics on. Steve says, yeah, we're really going to miss them. The Eversoles have been taking care of the pigs since they moved in because they're over at base camp right now, and so they're going to miss them too because it's just fun to watch them eat apples and treats and all sorts of stuff. They get so excited. So goodbye, Lady Pig. I wish I had had more land to rotate you on. Rabbit number 2, who did not give birth on schedule. She was due Sunday. Started making a nest today. I made a short video of that went out on TikTok, and it will post to YouTube probably tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Maybe later today. We'll see. So she finally started pulling out fur, and I've been looking at. I had given up by this point, but I wanted to give her at least a week after her due date to make sure she was not going to give birth before seeing if she would breed again. Well, she started making a nest. So that's a good sign that we're probably going to get a second round of rabbits, or she already gave birth and ate them. We'll find out today. So I made a little video just of what nesting looks like. And now we're leaving her alone because we don't want to get she'll only give birth probably when she feels safe. There's like some amount of control that animals have. So we'll see. But this is why you wait a week. So the rabbit was due on Sunday. Couple days before Sunday, we were watching. Couple days after Sunday, we were watching. And then we were like, I give up, whatever. It didn't take. I'm going to get rid of that buck. That buck's very lucky because he almost got gotten rid of. And then she started making a nest. So waiting a week's a good idea. The sheep over next door, because we run sheep 2 places when they're separated, 1 place when they're together. And the guy who owns the property next door to me lets me run it on his pasture, which is great for both of us. It keeps his pasture under control and it keeps my sheep fed. They're moving. They've been way up at the tippy top of the hill and they're moving back down this week. The grass down there is growing better. And we also are going to Self-Reliance Festival and have some farm sitters coming in. So last time we had farm sitters, they had to walk like halfway up this hill, guys, and this hill is amazingly steep. So I was like, maybe we should move them down the hill to make it easier on the farm sitter help because it's hard to get farm sitter help. And Tactical was like, well, the grass is good. They haven't been there in a long time. So he's going to move them towards the barn. So it's an easy check-in for the sheep. And that'll make everything easier. And the only reason we're able to do that is the grass is just growing everywhere, particularly lower in the holler on the south-facing slopes, which is where that is. And it's interesting because higher up on the hill, I think it gets more exposure to wind and it's a little colder at this time of year. So the grass down lower is doing better. In the summer, I mean, you would think it's the other way that heat rises, but that's not how that's working here. We are getting ready for baby chicks in 2 weeks, and I can't remember if all my chicks are arriving at once or if it's just the meat birds. I'm trying a different breed of meat bird that grows slower this year, and we're going to have a chicken processing class in mid-June. I will have tickets for that out shortly because I'm probably going to talk about that class at Self-Reliance Festival, so tickets have to be for sale in time for that. I will also send it out on the LFTN email for those of you who are interested in that class. It's a great class. It's going to be $95 and it includes lunch. Come and you get to go home with your chicken and the poultry processing guide. So that's all happening. The duck is setting eggs, but rats have discovered the duck is setting eggs and started getting the eggs. And apparently the rats are back and we're super upset about that. And we're going to be doing some heavy rat intervention. I might try to move that duck in a week or 2. We'll see. I also may incubate eggs and like trick her by putting chicks under her. We'll see how that goes. Next segment is grow. This is where we'll talk about what's in the gardens. And the seedlings are doing great. They're not in the gardens yet. They're not going to the gardens till after Self-Reliance Festival, maybe well after that. They will need to be repotted after Self-Reliance Festival. And luckily I have farm sitters so we can keep them. My hair is looking funny. We can keep them watered during that time. And I actually pretty pleased with the germination rate. I did 2 different kinds of dill, some seed from here and some from packets just to be sure. And my seed from here didn't germinate. So I don't know why, but that seed was not viable. And I'm glad I did the backup plan on the dill. So we have lots of dill. Dill is like one of the most important herbs for me to grow. I can never grow enough dill. I have dreamed of having a dill patch on my property that reseeds itself every year, like other people I know who can't get rid of dill from their property, but that has not happened here. And I think it's because I get some pretty harsh summer sun. So we will try that establishment again this year and we'll see how it goes. I thought I had it going last year and then we made a mistake. And if some dill comes where it was, it's just a fluke that some seeds were left behind there. So that's happening. Brassicas made it through the freeze just fine, as I mentioned. So that's cabbages and broccoli and all of that. And they're going through another freeze this weekend. I might put row cover on and we'll see. I might not. I might just kind of be lackadaisical. Those, though, if they make it through and I at least get the broccoli greens, even if they don't get to the point where they head out before the pests come and invade me, that's actually kind of nice to add to the salad greens, is to have some of those. Rosemary and lavender made it through the freeze. It's super exciting. Super exciting. Good morning from Ontario, Canada, where you're probably not planting anything. Yeah, so I killed a bunch of rosemary plants to the freeze this winter. I put another 15 out. And then I got word that it was going to be 24 degrees, and I was like, whatever happens, happens. They made it just fine. And we also added some lavender because it smells good. So it's doing okay. We'll see if it makes it through the second round. Strawberries are blooming. In fact, if we hadn't had this freeze, I probably would have gotten my first fruit set on the strawberry plants, but that like wiped out the blossoms, so it won't happen. And that means it's time to put the red rocks out. So this is how you fool your free range chickens into not eating your strawberries, is right now when it's blooming, you put the red rocks out. You put little strawberry sized painted red rocks out, and they come and they peck them. And they're like, well, that didn't taste good. And then later when you have red strawberries in there, they already tried that and they don't realize they can eat the strawberries. Otherwise, if you free range your chickens in your strawberry patch, you're not getting any strawberries. They're going to get them just before, like you're letting it ripen on that vine. They're going to come in right before you pick it, and they're going to make your day sad. So paint your rocks this weekend. Put them out on your patch if you have free range chickens. I have one free range chicken, so I probably should do it. I think this might be her last year with us. Like, I'm letting her age out. She's really been hanging on really well. The new chickens that are coming in are not going to free range because those little buggers they rip stuff up too much. And I don't like to have, like, I've always had this anti-chicken defense system where I fence them out of all the areas I don't want them. It's way easier to fence them in one area than for me to have that and have to go through that and over that to get to my plants. So we decided to change that equation and put them into a large pasture where I can alternate years where they are. Next segment is holler neighbors / community. This is where we talk about what the holler neighbors are helping with and our bit wider LFTN community. And I haven't heard from y'all about stuff going on. So obviously nothing's going on, right? Right? This is the time to tell me in the comments. The community and neighbors have been a huge help to me over the last few weeks with the kitchen remodel. You can probably hear in my voice that it sounds like I'm getting over a cold. It turns out anytime I'm exposed to what's under a house, I get a pretty bad cold. And I may have caught this from somebody, but I noticed also this week, because I got past all of the crap with this thing, that when I'm in the room that still has the floor open, it comes back. So I really think there's some funk under houses in Tennessee that just gets me. And what I usually do is wear a respirator if I have to go to crawl space. Well, it's a little different when you're in the house and it's across the house, but the air in your house is the air in your house and it's open. So we have managed to close off the mud room from the rest of the house, so there's not that free exchange, and we have some subfloor just sort of down but not screwed into place. Tactical did a lot of changing of the plumbing in that room, and I think he just finished that yesterday. So now that subfloor can go in. We've closed off the attic from the house too. I'm feeling a lot better. There was a cold, like Tactical also got a cold. Yeah, mold. It might be mold. I don't know. Some sort of fungus. It hit me so bad I was coughing up blood, and that's alarming. I was not coughing up enough blood to go to the doctor to get to the chest x-ray for pneumonia. If it had continued, I would have done that. It actually went away again. And I've been pretty aggressive with the Mullen tea and getting the air cleaned out. I have an air filter coming that I will just have on hand in case we have to, like, we're going to get into I think when we get into the next phase of this, I'm going to move out of the house for that week and only wear a respirator when we have the floor open, because there's one more third of my house that needs the joists redone long term. But we're not going to do that anytime soon, because I like to stick to a budget, not go in debt. And it's not a problem right now. Like, I'm not falling through the floor, and the finances want me to save up my construction money again. We'll just put it that way. So buy lots of tickets to SRF, come to the spring workshop, sign up for my membership, all that good stuff, right? Anyway, buy lamb from me, whatever. So the neighbors have come over, like the Eversouls and Nighthawk, and Tacticals actually work just about every day on this project, and just put their hearts into helping me out with this. I've been on like half productivity since last Friday, and they just keep going and let me rest in between stuff. And they help frame in the wall, and I'm super thankful for that, because if Tactical had been doing this by himself with just my help, this would have been going on and on and on. But they have totally come in to help. And then the wider community, because we have skilled people in it like Ryan Steva, Carrie Brown, and Ken Esch, has been a huge boost. Matt came in and worked on wiring. And we're at a point now where, if you look at the picture in the thumbnail, drywall's up, tape's over the drywall, mud's over the tape. And Ken is stopping by to put the subfloor in that one other space that needs to be done. And then at least we're at baseline, right? Then at this point, it's all about painting and getting the temporary bar built with the temporary counter and the sink in and some other stuff done. And I will have a kitchen that works again. I have one more open wall. I'm waiting for Matt to come in and put a sub panel in, but it's all looking good. And I think about, I've said this a few times in video, like I think about what this would have been like 15 years ago had I tried to do this, when I was having trouble with people even showing up who I hired. Prices were outrageous to hire contractors to come out here. They did crappy work that I've ended up redoing over the last decade. And by myself, without a community, this would have been awful. It would have been awful. So, I'm just really grateful for all the help I've had from the Holler neighbors and everybody else. Not just on the project, but helping me stay like, I'm losing my mind a little bit with the chaos in my house. And Tracy's been really good about like just hanging out with me and talking to me with her positive, like she's a very positive person. And there was not a better time to do this project. Like you would think like it's right before Self-Reliance Festival. Nicole, why are you doing this? Because there's no other good time this year. And at least I don't have to cook for 80 people next week. Right? In 4 weeks, I'm cooking for a bunch of people at my spring workshop. And I do the cooking in advance, and there's a kitchen crew that does cooking on site. We need a kitchen for that. And we need a functional kitchen for that. So anyway, I don't know. I'm grateful. That's all I'm saying. I think it's very hard for us, especially homestead-minded people, prepper-minded people, independence-minded people, to admit when we need help and to accept help. And I've had to accept a lot of help in the last couple years, and I don't know, it's humbling. I don't know the best way to say it, but at the same time, it's very empowering, and it's the reason that I'm able to still keep this show going and to get the coffee orders out and all of those things. It's because I've gotten over some of that. I can't accept help. Now I have learned to accept help. Maybe I've learned it too well, Tactical might think, based on the number of hours he just put in on my kitchen, because he has put in a lot of time on that. Next segment is infrastructure. This is where we talk about what we're building on the homestead. It's official. David Ruiz has named the chicken coop the Holler Roost. I was going to have a naming contest, and then he dropped Holler Roost, and everybody loved it. They loved it. And I was like, there's no contest here at this point. Everybody's just going to choose Holler Roost. I mean, I could put it out to vote on Twitter or something, but we're naming it the Holler Roost. Everything at the homestead sort of has a little name. Like I have Sunshine Plot, which is my garden space, and we have Taj Mahal, Holler Roost, guys. Holler Roost, Holler Homestead is this house. So it is The only reason this thing is not further along right now and up and in my place is that I started my kitchen remodel, and Steve Eversole, who built it, has been here helping here instead of putting it up in the pasture. Yeah, Steve says, yeah, it couldn't be any other name now. So he's been really gracious about that because I think he really likes to get projects done. And this one's probably killing him because it's like, it's here and I can put it there, but I can't because they're busy on the kitchen. Anyway, he's been super kind about that. But we'll probably do a video when we start assembling it in the pasture. He has it mostly pre-built over at base camp. He's going to tack together. He's going to pull it apart, put it up in the pasture. Roofing arrives Monday. Monday's a big day here. Roofing arrives. Mama Sauce probably arrives. And there's a third thing. Oh, the dogs get to go to the vet for their annual physical. Monday's a big day. Monday's a big day. The pump house. So last week when I did the Spicy Sisters show with Amy, I talked about how you really need to learn electrical and plumbing if you're going to live in the country and be in charge of your own water, because you can't always get a guy out to fix your system. Unbeknownst to me, during that conversation, my well house was breaking. And I flushed the toilet after that live stream, and the water acted funny, and I went down. Sure enough, my cistern was empty. And I have now learned that the foundational problem for this, because I was like, why is my cistern empty all the time? I'd almost blown up my pump like 3 times in the last 2 weeks before that. Well, the check valve that keeps the water from flowing back into the spring when it pumps into the cistern had failed. So what was happening is it was pumping up, siphoning out, pumping up, siphoning out. Didn't realize that was going on till recently. And so then we installed what I call the high-low switch. So it pumps up your pressure to a certain amount and then has a low cutoff, shuts off power to the pump if it gets low. And in this way, you keep your pump from blowing up. That switch is $22. And your pump is more than $22. So it's totally worth putting the extra $22 into your system, guys. We put that switch in, it didn't work. We don't know why. Tactical actually needs to take it back to the plumbing store and have a conversation with them, because I had a conversation and the reason they told me why he does not agree with. So now he needs to go have that conversation with them, because I'm not arguing for him through me at the plumbing store. So that happened. So we put the other switch back in, and we have been manually filling up the cistern several times a day, which is actually a little unusual. That's a lot. I'm like, my bathtub uses a whole bunch more water than I thought. That's because it was siphoning out slowly all day long. And then we had to refill it. And then it was siphoning out. And then we had to refill it. It was also tripping a breaker. So I couldn't have the automated. I have a fill switch in there that turns on and off the refill pump. So Tacticals changed out the refill switch. And it stopped blowing the breaker. And then he became aware that the check valve's not working. So Nighthawk works across the street from the plumbing store, and hopefully he will get off work while the plumbing store is still open and get another check valve. If not, I'll probably need to know that on my way home and stop by Lowe's, or I'll probably just wait till Saturday morning and go get it at the plumbing store, because it's probably $1 or $2 more there, but those guys are so helpful. They're so helpful. And yeah, I probably should buy 2 check valves while I'm there. So that's the pump house update. So it's working now. Cautiously optimistic at this time. Cautiously optimistic. We will see. And if the check valve and new switch doesn't do it completely, that high-low switch problem has to be solved. We just haven't put time in it because kitchen. We're really trying to get it so that I can cook in the kitchen, do dishes in the kitchen, etc. And we're very close. I'm sure, even though most of this weekend is dedicated to setting up and getting ready for the Self-Reliance Festival, I'm sure I will put in a couple of 2-hour blocks to do some of the kitchen redo stuff to get it at least functional, and maybe move the oasis of crap that's in my living room and make it an oasis of crap in the kitchen that needs to be put back in the shelves over time. We will just see. I mean, what's between us and finishing is drywall mud finished, paint done, floor cracks caulked, floor painted, frame put in for a countertop in the bar area, piece of plywood with hole cut in it put on there, that stained, sink put in that. So there's a lot of painting and staining, and that takes time to dry in between. So it's all about layers, and we haven't even bought the plywood yet, but I anticipate a trip to get that done. I'm going to be pushing hard for it because having a sink inside is super, super helpful. Super helpful. I had no idea. The first time I had to do dishes in my bathtub this week because the outdoor kitchen was shut down because it was frozen outside, I was like, yeah, this is for the birds, guys. This is for the birds. But that's just progress on the homestead. Sometimes you have to take 5 steps back to take 2 steps forward, is what it is. Finances. That's where we talk about the money on the homestead. I sold some of the lamb that just got processed, and I'm dropping it off today in Dixon. And a thank you for that purchase. That actually helps us put more money into the sheep and put more money into the homestead, and less meat in my freezer. And my freezers are very full of meat right now. So that's super cool. Anyway, that's the end of the homestead happenings update for today. If you have questions, throw them in all caps. I'm not pulling the Holler Neighbors on for this one because I want to wrap up within the next 10 minutes or so that I can be there for Lady Pig, etc., and be ready to help if we need to help and say goodbye to her when the folks come with the trailer to pick her up. If you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, you can do it in a couple ways. 1, get your coffee at hollerroast.com. 2, consider becoming a member. Just head on over to livingfreeintennessee.com to find out more. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week. And then the rain started. It's like the outside is crying for Lady Pig because she's leaving. It's just water falling from the sky, guys. I don't see any questions. I see concern about coughing up blood. Don't worry. It only happened once, and I looked it up, and they said unless it's happening repeatedly, don't worry about it. Or if it's dark colored blood and it was light colored blood, could have been from my throat, could have been from a bloody nose going down my throat. All of that's super gross and TMI, I know, but sometimes I TMI, you guys. So it hasn't happened since, and I've been doing nothing but getting better. I haven't had a fever this whole time, so I'm doing fine. If I have, any residual weird symptoms, I won't. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to wrap this up and put on a less sparkly jacket for moving that pig. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.